Scream 6 is directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett. And this is the sixth film in the Scream franchise that once again stars Melissa Barrera, uh, Jenna Ortega, Jasmine Savoy Brown, Courtney Cox, and among others. And in this story, it takes a different approach where we have the survivors of the last film from 2022 Scream that come back and they're essentially going to college in New York City. And as you've seen from the trailers, Ghostface is back again and starts targeting them one by one. And I'll leave it there because there's a lot of stuff I can't get into detail with without going to major spoilers. But here's a little backstory. Now, if you've been following my channel for a while, you know that I'm a pretty big fan of the Scream series, and I did a whole retrospective of it some years ago with Eddie. And I was a big fan when they brought back the new one from last year. It was quite a fresh return to the series after the hiatus, and also being in honor of Wes Craven's legacy of what he left behind ever since he tragically had passed away. And with the directors of Ready or Not coming to do their take on the franchise, it got me really curious what they were doing when last year was a surprise with the fifth one. And so ever since I got word that they were going to keep doing more of them, it got me interested, but at the same time it made me also kind of hope that they didn't overstay their welcome too much, because seeing how the franchise has been going strong for the last 25 years, it really makes you wonder like what else they can really do as far as tackling the slasher genre in this case. Especially since a lot of the sequels have really established a lot of the rules of how we see it for a lot of the horror movies and stuff. And so them tackling different things with this time and having to merge it to New York City made me really curious because, well, let's face it, the last time we had a serial killer running loose in New York City was Jason Voorhees, and knowing how that one's pretty much still my least favorite of the original Friday the 13th series made me really curious if this was going to be better than that one, for one, and also seeing what they could do with, tackling other areas with the slasher genre, and also seeing where our characters are now. And so I was already really interested with the trailers alone, and my only kind of disappointment going into it was the fact that we didn't get Neve Campbell returning, because I did read that there was a pay dispute that happened where she didn't want to return, and so that had me just kind of a little bit disappointed going into it, but at the same time I was still hopeful because I really did enjoy the last one, and I really love this franchise. And I gotta say, upon seeing it, I had a really good time with this movie. Like, there's some aspects that I did kind of prefer a little more in the fifth one, and even some of the other sequels and stuff, especially Scream 4. But I will say this, I think, was like what I wanted to see a little bit more in certain areas with the fifth one to an extent. And so to get my pros out of the way, I thought the cast in this were all fantastic as usual. I thought Melissa Barrera, once again, is really great as Sam Carpenter. And not going to spoil anything for those of you who haven't seen the last film, but the way it goes into her character arc this time, especially of her dealing with her sister and the stuff that was going on with the last film, I think really shine in this. And her and Jenna Ortega, once again, show a lot of great chemistry together. And Jenna Ortega is also fantastic as usual. Since 2022, she's really become, really, in my eyes, really been in the spotlight of been a lot of horror stuff related, especially with X last year, Scream 5. She was also, I heard she was also good in Wednesday, but I haven't seen that yet. But she's just really growing really great in the horror genre, and she really pulls it off great like usual. And then also seeing the other cast was good too, although I was a bit kind of questioned going into that because there is some things that I think also with the fifth film that they could have maybe elaborated more on, of how there are certain characters that come back in this one. I think really could have, made it seem like there are certain characters that they bring back that I think could have maybe either been that they could have really established better of how they survived in the last film. And then they also bring back some other characters in this one that I think was really interesting as well, especially seeing Hayden Panettiere come back as Kirby again since the fourth film. And I'll admit that I wasn't really too big of a fan of hers myself when I watched her in Scream 4. She did kind of grow on me over the years since I recently watched Scream 4 again, and she's not too bad like I remember. But I did always still find her character my least favorite of that film. And with this one going into it, they do establish more with their character, and I will admit that her character now has finally grown on me to where I actually like her more this time. and they give her a lot more of a purpose here in this, and I think that she's a lot more tolerable than what she was in the fourth film. And I think that she's really grown better as an actress over the years too. And so she was really great, definitely one of the good standouts in this one. And then some of the other new cast members I thought really worked well, especially one of this other character that's this cop played by Dermot Mulroney. I thought, well, I'm sorry if I can't pronounce his name correctly. I thought he was great as the cop, looking for everything, the killer and everything like that. And then you also have returning Courtney Cox, of course, playing into it. And it's great that they at least got her back, because without Nev, it still shows that they're still trying to carry on with the sequels and stuff. But I thought she was great as usual, and she has one of the best chase sequences with Ghostface. I thought really worked in this. Into the story, I thought the movie was very interesting with how it played around with them having to not only tackle how you do legacy sequels and stuff, where in this case it's a sequel to the requel as it was with the last film, how they established roles and stuff. But the way that things unfold as the mystery goes along, I thought was really interesting, and they actually do something in this that I didn't expect in a Scream movie. I won't go into spoilers at all, but let's just say that when it starts, it doesn't start like your traditional Scream movie, and I thought that really got me from the beginning of the movie. And there's also some other things throughout the film that I thought, this is really going in some really great direction that these directors are really trying to pull off with how Ghostface ain't fucking around this time. He's really this killer is really going into it to where, they're killing it in, the killer is going in very brutal ways, like you see, and they go to the extreme this time to where I think it's the most brutalist I've seen out of the Scream franchise, because there are scenes where characters are getting fucking stabbed repeatedly, like in the neck, in the face, and everything, and they go into explicit detail onto it. And I thought that was really great. And also a lot of the callbacks they do with some of the other films I thought were really neat. Especially if you see the scene like in the trailers where it shows the whole shrine of all the killers from the other films. I thought it was a great celebration of how much this killer is very obsessed with all the other killers in the franchise and stuff. And the stab movies and stuff. And so that was great. And then, hearing familiar cues and stuff like Red Right Hand was great. Dewey's theme, even though, well, and everything like that. I thought that was great. And then, of course, just the way that it was able to continue on with building a lot of the stuff involved with the killer in this time, I thought was getting into a really great climax to where it really got me. I can't go into, like I said, it's one of those kind of mystery movies where you have to really go into it without spoilers. And so I had to avoid the internet like crazy, and when we get the reveal this time, I thought not only did it really get me, but it was also something that I think was a better twist that really kind of, that I think was like basically like a better twist ending to the fifth film, in my opinion, to an extent. There are certain things that I think they could have maybe elaborated on a little more, but I think that they still added enough to where I really bought into it. And so there's more I can go in detail, but again, it's one of those where I have literally, the only things that I can really say that I get into my cons is I will say that one of the things I've noticed, and this isn't really necessarily the movie's fault, but it's been the entire franchise, is that there are certain characters that tend to survive really easily, that when you think about it, there is really no logical way, logically speaking, that a character would survive like that. I had the problem with this in a lot of the other Scream sequels and stuff, especially with 4 and 5, and to a certain extent, I think probably with the third film. But it seemed to me like there were certain instances where you clearly see a character getting stabbed, but, and I'm no medical expert and stuff, but the way it plays out, it really seemed like there's characters in this that I feel like they were too scared to kind of kill off, so to speak. And I'll leave it there. I won't reveal who, but let's just say that I think it played it a little too safe in that regard. Hopefully in the next one they kind of learn their lesson from that, because this has been an ongoing problem with a lot of the sequels, where the writers, it seems like they're too scared to kill off certain characters, and I think that really that takes away some of the tension and a lot of the emotional drive that the movies should really have at this point. Well, and also I felt like the 3D itself was not really that good. It was kind of giving me a headache at times. So this was the first Scream movie that was in 3D, and I don't go see it in 3D. This is definitely what to watch in 2D. So that's something I don't recommend. And there's also some other things that I think that they could have added on to more. Like I said, there's something that happens at the beginning that I think if they really would have went a whole lot more with, it could have added a whole lot more and gave us even more big twists and turns. They could have added some stuff. But other than that, I thought it was still a really fun time, and I thought it was really great. And so with that, I'm going to give the movie a very extremely high compelling grade on the Film Freaks meter. And so with those who've also seen the Scream movies and also Scream 6, let me know in the comments below what you thought about it. And thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next review. I'll see you later.